everyone, welcome back. It's getting to that time of year where sweet corn is ready. We've already picked a couple of ears and had them with suppers. We're going to get everything picked that's ready, which is pretty much everything in here. There's a few small ears left that we might be able to get an extra meal or two later. But as you can see, this sweet corn is massive, and I've never had sweet corn grow this tall, so it's a little different for us. Different brand, but I'm gonna get this picked and we'll show you a couple of the ways that we process it and freeze it for our family. Alright, so we have our sweet corn picked, everything that is ready right now. There's still a good bit that is pretty small on the stalks. We might be able to get some more if we get a little more rain and heat. Right now we'll probably only get some for a couple of dinners. I'm going to do corn two different ways. One is going to be frozen on the cob. The other is going to be frozen but cut off the cob, and we'll just freeze loose corn. And I'll explain how we do the frozen on the cob. It's not as good as fresh corn, but it's pretty close when it's December or January and you want fresh sweet corn with your dinner. We planted sweet Silver Queen. Make sure I get that right. This is what it looks like. It is a all white sweet corn, and we're going to get some of this husk to start it, and I'll show you what we do. So this is the Silver Queen. As you can see, it is what I call all white. We've planted bicolor corn before, and typically that's what you get in the store. Both are very good. We wanted to try different sweet corn this year, so this is what we picked. As you saw in the video earlier, it is much larger than any sweet corn I'm used to. It is supposed to grow 7 to 8 feet tall. I think ours exceeded that a little bit, but it has done really well. Every stalk has 2 to 3 ears on it, it seems. And we've had it for supper a couple of times now, and it tastes pretty good, so we're pretty happy with how it turned out. So just a little fun fact, if you carefully open the ear of corn, it's easier to show. The silk that's on the corn has more use to it than just being a pain to clean off when you're ready to eat. The silk, which is all of this, is used for pollination for the corn. So the tassel is at the top of the corn stalk, and that releases the pollen. This silk that sticks out of the top of the ear of corn is what catches the pollen, and then the silk goes to each individual kernel. So the number of kernels on that cob is how many strings of silk you have, and you can see how it kind of follows down the seams here and goes to the different kernels. So we have a pot of water that we brought to a boil. Basically we're going to put the whole ear of corn in and blanch it for 3 to 4 minutes, and then we're going to transfer it to an ice bath and let it completely cool to stop the cooking process. At that point, we'll finish bagging it, freezing it, and we'll show you how we go through those steps to make sure that it's easy to food save. I like to use tongs to put it in the water. That way, if it splashes, I'm not scalding myself. And I only put enough in so that they're covered with the water. That way they're all getting equally cooked. And we're going to let that go for a couple minutes. Alright, so we have all of the whole kernel or whole cob corn blanched. We are going to move these into the ice bath. we've noticed with our food saver that unless you have the food pre-frozen or completely dry, that it just never seals right for us. So what we're gonna do is put these on a baking sheet then, which I have beside the ice bath here. And these are going to sit and dry with it being 10 o'clock, and my son wakes up at 6 a.m. every day, no matter how late he's up or how little he sleeps. We're just going to let these sit and fully dry overnight. First thing in the morning, we'll get them loaded up into the food saver bags, and we'll show you how we package them and freeze them. We have started boiling the rest of our corn. This corn we're going to cut off the cob and freeze. So we're going to cook it for the whole 12 minutes like you normally would boil fresh corn. We put it immediately into an ice bath, and then we're going to pull that out and let it sit for a few minutes. While this is going, I'm going to pull out the corn that we did last night, and I'll show you how we package that. Before we get to that, I wanted to show you, this is a perfectly pollinated ear of corn. As you can see, the rows are very nice and uniform, and then this one did not pollinate all of the kernels, so there's a good bit of kernels and portions that are missing, and it just shows kind of the difference of how it would pollinate and how it ideally should look. Okay, so we have our food saver bags prepped, one side sealed. We did roll this out and lay the 5 ears of corn that we want to put in a bag on it, just to make sure we had plenty of bag to be able to seal it after it's filled. This is the corn that we cooked last night. It has sat and dried and cooled off. So we want to do 5 ears per bag. You can do whatever you want based on your family size. Typically, I only eat 1 or 2 ears. My husband will eat however much we cook and is available because he just loves sweet corn. And my son is starting to chew on it a little bit, but for now we're not going to save any corn on the cob for him. He can have part of mine. What I like to do is rotate the cobs so they're every other direction. They just fit a little bit better. Typically the bottom of the cob's a little wider than the top. So we will throw these in here. I'll also try, if I have a couple of cobs that are smaller than the others, I'll try to make sure that I have some extra large ones in there as well, just to keep the amount of corn per bag the same. You can see we have plenty of bag at the top, so we'll be able to seal that and have a little extra just in case the seal isn't perfect the first time. So I will go ahead and get these packaged. Okay, so we have our corn bagged. There were a couple that I had to cut the ends off. Just bugs got in them, or they somehow got opened up and got soft or whatever. You'll have that with sweet corn. It doesn't affect the rest of the cob. You just cut whatever portion you don't like off. Make sure you use a very sharp knife because that cob is pretty thick, and watch your fingers. We're gonna go ahead and get these sealed. So we have all of our corn vacuum sealed. We found with our Food Saver that if you don't have the food pre-frozen or completely dry, it just doesn't seal as well. So you can see that we got a very good seal on this, fully encased the corn, so it's not going to freeze or burn or go bad, and we will definitely eat through this quicker than it would ever go bad in our freezer. The only thing we're going to do at this point is put a date on it. It's obvious what it is, or we would put sweet corn or whatever. We just like to put the date, that way if we freeze any more or if there's any left in our freezer, we make sure we get through that before the newer food. So we'll get this labeled and put in the deep freeze. We're going to go ahead and start cutting the corn off of these cobs. There's a couple utensils you can use to cut it. You can use just a regular knife. I like one that's a little serrated, just so it's easier to kind of guide where the knife is going. They also make corn cutting tools. I'll show you how to use both of them, and then I'm going to use the corn tool. You'll want to place the corn straight up and down. Try not to cut into the cob, and you'll just kind of follow it down the whole ear and cut it off like that. If you're using a corn cutting tool, and I don't really know what the official name for this is, it's same guideline. You're just going to press in towards the cob and you'll slice down the whole ear. So I'm going to go ahead and get all of this cut off, and then we'll put it in a bowl, and at the end we're going to measure out how much we want in each bag, and we will freeze it that way. So now that we have all of this cut off the cobs, we're going to figure out what size Food Saver bag we want. We'll get a bunch of those made up, and then we'll start measuring them out. We'll probably do about 2 cups or so in each one, just to keep it uniform. So we'll measure them, put them in the bags, and seal them. So this is my husband Dalton. It is much easier to fill the bags with a second set of hands. That way you're not trying to hold the outside of the bag and get them covered in corn juice or whatever. So we decided we're going to do 3 cups of corn per bag. So I will just take the measuring cup and not pack it super tightly, but get it worked in there, just because these large strips of corn like this take up a good bit of room in the measuring cup, so I'll try and break it up as I pack it in. And we'll just get these filled. We pre-made a handful of them. We'll see if we need any more when we get to the end, because I hate to pre-make too many and then you're stuck with a smaller size that you can't use for anything else. So we just do a couple and we'll make more as we go. The bags filled. We were pretty close. We only had to make one more, and we had a handful or 2 left over at the end, so I just spread them out between the bags, make sure they looked even. If you have a lot of larger chunks like this, it fills the measuring cup up quicker than loose corn, so you just have to kind of eyeball it and make sure that they look pretty similar. So what we're going to do now is just wipe off the edges, because the corn will leave residue on the bags where it touches, so we'll just make sure they're clean. That way we get a good seal and don't have to redo them. So we're going to get these cleaned up and we will food save them. Okay.
Okay.
So you can see this one had extra moisture. It didn't seal here, and it didn't seal here. We'll have to trim it, probably make a new bag to dump into it, and try this one again. Okay, so we have these all sealed. You can see they all are nice and vacuum packed. We're gonna go ahead and get these labeled. With loose corn, I like to put what the food item is as well, just because sometimes when it's frozen, you can't really tell what's in the bag when it's packed this tightly. So I'll just put sweet corn and the date. We'll get it in the freezer, and that is all of our sweet corn. If you like the video, be sure to hit like and subscribe below.